Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Hello, listeners, thinkers and dreamers alike. Get on board, folks, because this bus is on its way straight to the future. It's the Tech Talkin' bus, and we've 9 important stops to make today. So without any further ado, sitting in the driver's seat is our tour guide and chauffeur. Welcome, Matthew Dickerson. Toot toot!
I've said it to you before, I do love the intros. I never know what's coming next. And it gets me thinking about things along a different train. Excuse the bad pun with your toot toot, but it gets me thinking about different trains of thought and different ways to introduce things. And after this many episodes, 170 or thereabouts, you're still coming up with different intros.
Well, I try to be original each time, but has anyone ever had a really original thought? Maybe Albert Einstein.
Maybe. Oh, look, I'm happy with your original thoughts. I think they're pretty original.
Thank you. They're original enough for our purposes.
That's right. They do the job for me anyway.
All right, folks, got your seatbelts fastened. Today we're imagining a world with a skyline full of 5G towers. That's going to ruffle some tinfoil hats for you. We've got some bad news for scammers who thought they could hide amongst the ones and zeros out there. We're chalking up one for the good guys today. And take heed, don't poke the gorilla, as one YouTuber has discovered by taking on a Donkey Kong champion. Yes, folks, we have all the big news here, just like our first story. Now, this one's about robots in the home. It's the stuff of the Jetsons, and it's not new to us here by any stretch here at Tech Talk, as regular listeners will attest. The think tank at Apple have heeded the call, and Matt, I don't want to get into people's hopes. I don't want to raise their hopes too high, but a robot butler just may be around the corner.
It's been around the corner for years now, hasn't it?
I know it has, but I mean, this is sounding tempting.
It is sounding tempting. We all think of Rosie, of course, the Jetsons.
Yeah. Actually, and we keep referring to her.
We do.
It's
I
not
want
a
to
new
know
thing for us at all.
Why the Jetsons had to live up in the sky. Now, we think it's some futuristic thing, but maybe there were so many problems down at the ground level they had to live up in the sky.
They wrecked planet Earth.
That's
did
right.
the Jetsons, did anything of the Jetsons ever happen down on Earth?
I can't remember. It was all up in the sky. So maybe what we think is a futuristic world is really some sort of
it's a
terrible world down below. If ever they focused the cameras down lower, maybe it was a terrible world, so they had to live up in the clouds. But this digressing ever so slightly here. So Rosie, we love the idea of Rosie. Let's go down that path. Apple I think Apple lost their way, and it's not just me thinking this, but when Steve Jobs died, Apple lost some of their edge, some of their innovation. They were really known for leading the way with so many products, and they just seem to have lost their way ever so slightly. They almost seem to be a bit of a follower now, and I still think they're good at refining products, but not really leading the way with products. And
Steve Jobs cracked a fair sort of whip, didn't he?
I think it's a pretty big person to replace, and so maybe that's being incredibly unfair to Apple because Steve was Steve. But I think Apple are trying to get that mojo back, and maybe this is one of the ways. Now, they were working on an electric vehicle project for some time, and I find it intriguing that they didn't come up with their electric vehicle because other companies have been able to do it. It's not as if it's completely unusual. They had a project known as Titan, which was going to be basically an Apple electric vehicle, which sounds fine. As we know, electric vehicles seem to be software. You put a bit of wheels, electric motor and a battery, and you've got an electric vehicle. So surely they could have done that. Yeah. But they didn't ever seem to continue on with that project to the point now where they've just pivoted 2,000 employees, 2,000 mind you, from their Titan car project across to robotics, AI, other things they might think might be able to be delivered in a shorter time frame and also maybe more in line with what Apple wants to do.
Well, there's potentially less competition than in the EV market, maybe.
Maybe that's part of their decision. Maybe they've looked at what's happening in China, what's happening with Tesla.
More of a niche market there,
Yeah, maybe. So you've got Amazon have got Astro, so they've got a wheeled robot, but I think the general process
That's straight out of the Jetsons too, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, right, okay.
Which is fine until you get one step in your house and then that wheeled robot isn't much good. You're a bit like having a Roomba and saying go down the stairs and vacuum up the stairs. Well, it's not going to go so well.
Roomba and the Daleks are all caught on
that ground floor, aren't they? I don't know why Doctor Who had so many problems with the Daleks. Just go down some stairs. That's it, you're done. So I think bipedal is where they're going to go to with Apple, but they've made no announcement. They've just talked about the fact that things are happening, the full functionalities, the release date, the pricing, they're all unclear at the moment, but there's a bit of hype around this. And Apple don't always get their products right. Remember AirPower, there's going to be one pad that you can put all your products, your watch, your phone, and just put it anywhere. They announced that. They showed it off at one of their launches, and everyone's waiting to buy it, and then a few years later they quietly just shelved it. Whoops. So
Get it away.
hopefully that's not going to be the case here. And really, the potential uses for a robot, what are we going to do? Are they going to be making us dinner, cutting up a salad, cooking that steak to perfection?
Conversation.
It might be a lonely conversation. People I know speak already to their AI tools, so that might be a thing. Picking up the clothes off the ground, ironing. Ironing's a pretty challenging thing for a robot to do. Doing the washing, whole range of things. Is that what they're going to be used for? Is it going to be some more basic things, maybe helping people with vision loss or dementia, maybe helping them around, so focusing on the very needy rather than the people who just want to have a bit more luxury. So where they're going to go with all that, not sure. But I do think they feel like they've been left behind a little bit with the AI, with Google and certainly Microsoft. I think they feel like they've been left behind a little bit. So they want to catch up a bit there. So there's some interesting things here, though. When there was a recent survey done, 61% of adults said they were uncomfortable with the idea of robots in their home. So they've got to break past this bit of a stigma that maybe we don't want robots in our home. I for one, would love a robot in my home, but maybe people aren't that comfortable. And 37% of people in a different survey said they were more concerned rather than excited about robots and AI in particular in daily life. So they've got a few things to overcome in terms of mindset of humans about this. But I think the more organisations, the more companies that decide that they want to go down this robotic path, I think is good.
The more normal they're going to become.
They'll become more normal.
And the more accepted they'll become.
And there'll be competition, so that means there'll be better products out there. They'll come down in price. It does seem a bit rich to be talking about cost of living pressures, which everyone's talking about at the moment, and then saying, hey, let's have a robot in our home.
Yeah.
But I think there's a case to argue there for robots, and I think people would accept robots in their home. So let's wait and see how we go with this one.
Just around the corner. Put away your tinfoil hats, folks. It's time to hug a 5G tower today. Far from being an existential threat, the good oil is that not only are 5G towers safe, but sticking more 5G towers around your neighbourhood is actually likely to be a major energy saver all round for suppliers and for the consumer. Well, blow me down and bathe me in microwaves, Matt. Who'd have thunk it?
Well, imagine saying to someone that you're going to increase your battery life by 50% just by using 5G. And when I say just by using 5G, by using lots of 5G. In other words, getting to the point where you've got lots of towers around. Now, as we know, 5G is really good at increased speeds. 5G is really good at lots of density. So if you're at a sporting contest, a concert, a music concert, whatever, where there's lots of people in one small area, 5G absolutely shines in those areas. The problem with 5G, of course, is that it doesn't go quite as far. Higher frequencies, more data, but less distance. But some researchers have done some work and some simulations, and they've worked on this whole idea of having more of these towers, smaller towers, easier to put up, cheaper to put up. But the fact that there's more of them means they don't have to have their power transmissions as high. Now, mobile phones themselves have a range of power settings. You don't know about it. They'll just automatically adjust their power. And many times I've heard people be on a road trip maybe or out in areas where there's not great coverage, and they'll get halfway through the day and they go, oh, look at my battery life. I'm down to 40% already. I've done nothing on my phone. I haven't been able to use my phone. And that's because the phone has been searching for towers or trying to find a tower that's a further distance away, so it's had to increase its power settings to try and communicate with those towers, so that's chewing up your battery. In a big metro area, a city where you've got lots of towers around, you might get better battery life. Go to the next step with that, with 5G, lots of towers around, more than 4G, suddenly you get better battery life. So the researchers in these simulations have said that they can increase, or they think you can increase battery life on your phone, everything else being equal, increase your battery life by 50%. So if you get 20 hours out of your phone, now you're getting 30 hours out of your phone.
And that's with a lower intensity signal, you're saying?
Well, because they're closer,
because they're close.
That's right, you don't need to transmit, you don't need to send the signal as far, even though you're sending a signal that's got more data on it, you're not sending it as far. And that distance, obviously, because your signal's going out in three-dimensional, then essentially you're chewing up lots of power the further it's got to get to.
That's just logic, yeah.
It is, so it's fine. The other part, though, that you mentioned is the energy usage. So when you've got more of the towers, forget about your phone now for a second, obviously towers use some amount of power. But because you don't need to have the transmission as strong because you've got more of these towers, you can reduce the energy usage by 2/3. Now, you say, well, that's great, but you need more of them. So how does that balance out? If you needed 10 times as many towers and you had 2/3 energy usage, well, that wouldn't be any good. But in the simulations they've been doing, this is out of the University of California, if you did the simulations and look at those, then the overall energy usage is down, not by 2/3, but because each tower is down by 2/3, the number of towers you need increases, the overall power usage is down. So that's a good thing in terms of 5G and from a phone perspective as well. So getting better speeds, getting better density or phone density and reducing power usage overall, increasing battery life. The only thing not to like is the fact that microwaves are bombarding us with 5G. No, I'm not going there, James. I'm not going there.
Yeah, just to clarify, microwaves excite fluid molecules and so they make them vibrate more, but they've got to be of a particular intensity to do that. And that happens in a microwave oven. It doesn't happen at a 5G tower.
So are you saying don't put your head inside a microwave oven? Is that the advice here?
That's probably if you don't stick your head in the microwave oven. They've got Gaussian cages on their front screen too, so they're not leaking microwaves all through your kitchen and stuff and cooking your body. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of mythology that goes around at microwave ovens, and
I shouldn't even joke about it, should I?
No, look, yeah, we've got to address it, but it's an unfortunate misunderstanding, misappropriation of science when people start.
And of course, as we know, 5G is non-ionising radiation, so you're not ionising radiation like you get from the sun, for example.
Right. So we are being bathed in electromagnetic radiation in radio waves and microwaves and infrared and visible light and even UV light or constantly. But none of that is ionising until you get to the UV spectrum. Yeah. And we know all about those and melanomas and stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's okay, folks. Lots of 5G towers. Okay. It's okay. Things are going to be okay. In fact, it might even be better than you thought because you've got all these advantages there.
Well, all of a sudden your battery life has gone up and you've got a better signal too. Yeah,
exactly right. So quite fascinating. These are the things that sometimes you don't think about when the need is for more data, the need is for more speed, but you get some other, sometimes good, sometimes bad consequences, but in this case quite good. And we'll see more 5G in things like autonomous vehicles, smart cities will use this, IoT, Internet of Things. So apart from just using it for mobile phones and checking on the footy score, we'll see it in a whole range of other areas as well. So quite fascinating.
It's Scam Alert time, folks. Although this time the story is retrospective and the mongrel at fault has been apprehended. Be warned, scumbag scammers, you're next. Now, Matt, it's not for us to be neither judge nor jury, but 17 million fraudulent text message warrants a fairly public paddling, doesn't it?
In a week, James. That was just 1 week.
Wow.
Imagine how many weeks and how many
Take him to the town square and bring me the cricket bat.
That's right. And the town square in this case is Campbelltown Local Court.
Right.
So he's going through a court process. But it's one for the good guys, James. We often talk about some of the scams and be warned about these scams and look out for these scams. But this is one where facing charges, and I won't mention the person's name, but facing charges at this stage, hasn't been convicted, so it's alleged at this stage. But when the police made a raid on this person's house, they found some SIM boxes. Now, a SIM box might just be somewhere where you think someone keeps their SIM cards. Well, a SIM box has about 250 SIM cards, but they're active SIM cards.
Yeah, why do you need 250 SIM cards, Matt?
That's right. And
that's a fairly big bit of explanation you've got to make.
That's right. And when those 250 active SIM cards in your SIM box are plugged into a computer, and then there's a little program on there that's sending out text messages via this, you can generate about 150,000 messages a day from one SIM box. Have a few of those sitting around the house, you really have to say, gee, your mass marketing campaign, how's that going? I don't think you're using it for that. I think you're using it for some form of scam. So that's what they found in this gentleman's house. They found a few SIM boxes. They found multiple hundreds of SIM cards, active SIM cards, and they found a whole bunch of equipment in there that was being used for essentially sending out scams. Now, the scams in this particular case were the Australia Post scams. You've got a parcel, click on this link to get it.
Yeah.
Or the linked LINKT scams, which are the ones where you've gone through a toll and you owe some toll money. And I started thinking about it, 17 million text messages in a week. There's only 25 million people in this nation. So even if he had every mobile phone number in the nation or just going through a series of phone numbers, just basically counting through the numbers, hoping you'll get one that's actually active, you're able to get to probably every Aussie every couple of weeks. So you could be sending out text messages. This is one person, mind you, James, not like they've discovered a whole ring.
Me.
It's one person could be getting a text message to every person every couple of weeks. Again, there's some flaws in my argument, I realise there, but it gives you an idea of how powerful just one person could be in the whole scam process. So fantastic. Strikeforce Canby, KANBI, set up by the State Crime Command Cybercrime Squad, has basically gone through and found this particular person, but we hope they'll find some others as well. What I think is actually a good but maybe a bit disappointing in this scenario is they found this person and this person's in Australia, and it's much easier for our law enforcement in this nation to go through a process and have someone turn up at Campbelltown Local Court. The frustrating part is that many of these scammers are not sitting
Australian.
on our shores, sitting in somewhere overseas. Maybe we don't have extradition rights with those particular countries. So well done to the police in this scenario. They've caught someone here, but there are people all over the world.
I wonder how you track someone down, how you discover that stuff.
Yeah, that's right. And then even when you do all the good work and discover it, then you say, we haven't got rights to get that person out of that country. I don't know. As far as I can work out, this person was using these fraudulent text messages in this nation, but I don't know whether they were sending them overseas as well. At 17 million a week takes you a few more weeks to get through the whole world. But I think they were focusing on Australia. But, yeah, I mean, we've got pretty good law enforcement here, so I don't know why you do it in this nation. Go and be overseas. Not that I'm encouraging people to do that, but go overseas and do it.
No, we're not giving them ideas.
That's right. But, look, good work to our law enforcement.
Absolutely.
The unfortunate part is you remove one person out of the equation and there'll be another 10 that will jump into that void pretty soon. But if we talk about ones where they are caught, then hopefully some people say maybe just a 9-to-5 job isn't such a bad idea after all.
I think we're all pretty much aware that smartphones are sneaky and they're time-travelling devices as well. I mean, you flick on a social media app and then look up at 2 hours have passed without you knowing. Am I right? Smartphone addiction is real and it's costing consumers time and sleep and headspace for a start. And so, Matt, it looks like it's AI to the rescue in this case.
Well, I'm actually in two minds about this one, James. We've got a problem with people, exactly as you say, losing hours, losing days of their life.
Just quickly have a look on Facebook or whatever, and then it's 2 hours later.
You blink and it's just time gone. So what's the solution to tech addiction? More tech, obviously. And that's exactly what they've done here. They've been doing some work with some different AI systems, and I'll talk through some of the different ideas they've had so far, with the idea here with some AI addictions to try, not AI addictions, with smartphone addictions to try and use AI to actually combat that. And they've tried a few different scenarios. So the first thing they've done is they've got this idea where they'll send a pop-up, just a pop-up on screen, and for you to continue using the app you're using, you've got to put in a PIN. So not too complicated, but it's just a bit of let's break the addiction here. Let's just put something in place to go, James, you've been at it for 2 hours now. Yeah. Hey, just hold on a bit there, buddy, and just think about this for a little while. So what they did...
None of these videos are actually important.
That's right. And they're probably not even real. So they did, first of all, they got a bunch of university students, who better to do the testing with, and they did an initial 2-week phase where they just monitored their app usage. So we're not going to do anything. You just use your phone as normal, although I'm not sure how normal you do it knowing that someone's watching what you're doing, but as much as possible, use it as normal. And then after they did that, they also asked them some questions, some self-assessment, if you like, about their app usage. They fed all that information in, their assessment, the actual data recorded from their usage, fed all that in, and then using that, they tried a couple of different models. One was just a random, every now and again, pop up, hey, should you still be using this app? And the other one, of course, was personalised based on that person's information, their data, how long they're using certain apps. And if they're using one app that they don't use for long, AI left them alone. If they used other apps they did use for a long period of time, they started to basically cut in. So they did some testing over 4 weeks then with these same people to see how they went with all of that. And then the results of all that essentially was they reduced their app visitation, so actually the process of going to some of those apps by 9%, and they reduced their time on the apps by 30%. Now, it's only a fairly small sample space, 127 students over a 4-week time frame. So not revolutionary in this whole process, but at least getting somewhere in terms of saying, well, we are doing something about this, and what are we doing, and is it making much of a difference? And in this case, it was making a bit of a difference, but I can see definitely that either there'll be an app there that parents might want, for example, or people might even want to use it themselves, but it might get to the stage where this is built in to smartphones, because surely at some stage in the future in our litigious society there'll be a lawsuit against a smartphone to say
someone's going to get sued because they had no self-control.
Yep, that's right.
And they felt that someone else was to blame.
Yeah, and there are things being built into smartphones now, into the operating systems of smartphones to try and help you from a health perspective. So maybe this will be built in, but I just, again, is using tech to solve tech problems, is that the best way to do it? Is it something where you just have some self-control? Obviously not. But it's quite interesting that maybe we will use AI to try and help solve some of our addiction problems, and maybe that'll make it better for all of us. We need gambling next one. If someone's putting too much money, spending too much of their weekly income on gambling, and just have some AI step in and say, the house always wins, don't you? But it's an interesting start, I think.
Do you know someone who loves to tell a story but is just shocking with names, dates and faces? It's so frustrating, and for some, well, it's so predictable. Listening through the speakers, I can hear spouses all over the country groaning in acknowledgement. It's AI to the rescue once again for the second time today, this time as a memory aid. And who knows, there just might be some marriages saved, Matt.
Well, one of the things that's interesting about this is that there are some organisations out there, the people leading these organisations, that are advocates for AI assistance to offload memory-dependent tasks. That sounds a bit scary to me, offloading memory-dependent tasks. Well, pretty much everything we do is memory-dependent to a certain extent.
No responsibility for remembering anything now.
That's right. What did I do last week? I'll just check with my AI tool. Yeah. But it is fascinating. I remember before mobile phones came along, and before even in the early mobile phones, when you had 16 numbers you could store in your mobile phone, or some ridiculously small number, and they were so hard to get to. I remember in those days, I used to pride myself on being able to remember phone numbers. I used to have, I reckon, easily 100 phone numbers, maybe more, that you just type in a number on the good old-fashioned handset on your desk and you'd read that number. I didn't need to go to the good old White Pages book and look up a number. I would just be able to recall it from memory. And so that was interesting, and people would go, wow, gee, you remember that number. That was fascinating. But going from there, now I reckon if I remembered 20 phone numbers, that'd be not too bad, because
well, who remembers any phone numbers?
Why bother?
I can remember my wife's phone number, just that's for emergencies only.
Yeah, that's right. And when you're driving along, for example, you don't want to be typing in a number. You want to be able to say, hey, Siri, ring this person. You don't even need to know the number, just ring the person. So you've got all of these things that you're offloading. So now you actually start to lose it, the old use it or lose it. So we are using our memory less. Now, one thing that we traditionally haven't been great at is remembering stuff. And again, as you said, we might have a vague recollection of what happened. We might be able to tell the story of what happened. But if you said the details of that, you're going to get them wrong most of the time.
People say, and who's that guy that, he used to have the hair and he would wear shirts and stuff. And it's like,
the guy with
none
shirts
of this
and
is
hair,
helpful whatsoever. And spouses all around the country know what we're talking about. Husband or wife, there's always one who's shocking at remembering details.
That's right. Until they hear it and think, I knew that. Yes. I knew that, definitely. So the idea here is that you use some AI assistance to remember the details. Let's face it, get the details better, and almost like having a CCTV of your life as you go through. Now, it's not quite like that, but where they're talking about with some of these things is use AI to just continually record bits of your life, screenshots of what was happening on your phone.
To listen in on those stories when you're having those conversations.
Maybe. To look at the apps you're using and just grab some screenshots from those just to get pertinent details. But it's even when you look back for a photo now, sometimes you'll be going, now I took this photo. And there's a couple of ways to look at that. Sometimes you'll go, I remember It was in January. I'll go back and look in January, and you go through your photos in January and find what it was. Or I remember I was in Tokyo, so you go back to your photos and look at the map of your photos. Oh, there's the photos I took in Tokyo, so I can narrow down on that. So we do a bit of it now. Where they're really focused on this is to get to the stage where you've got all your emails, all your messaging apps, all your social media, all the text messages, all the photos, all in some tool. And again, exactly as they talked about, offload those memory-dependent tasks. So remember the big picture, remember the story, but when you want to get down to the detail, the nitty-gritty, you just go back and reference some of these. The real challenge here, actually there's two challenges. One, the real challenge is making it seamless. That's the first challenge. But the real challenge is we want our privacy, but we want our convenience.
Yeah.
And I've found in the past, typically humans, you give them a privacy versus convenience conundrum, and they'll go the convenience option. When pins were first on our phones, it's too hard. It's too complicated to put that in.
Anyway.
I'll just have no pin. But hold on, you've got information on your phone. Yeah, whatever. Oh, no one wants my information. So getting to the stage where it's seamless, easy to use, but protecting your privacy, that's the real challenge here. So
I'm just thinking about those late night campfire stories now that are going to have another voice chiming in every now and then. Oh, that was Johnny. Or that was in December last year.
That's where it needs to be.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be,
or worse.
Your phone chiming in every now and then. When he goes, who was that guy? And he goes, it was Michael Jones.
I think it's going to be worse than that, because you've got those friends that just like to add a little bit to those stories, a little bit of hyperbole, exaggeration. It's the Aussie way sometimes. So you can imagine telling a story. And then we had 5 guys go down, and then the phone goes.
What details are remembered are also the exaggerated.
Well, no, but the phone might have your real information.
Yes,
so
and do
actually,
corrections.
It wasn't 5 guys that came down. It was only 2. Oh, shut up, will you? I thought it was 5.
Shut up, phone.
That's right.
What do you know?
So I just think this is a fascinating way of being able to recall our life.
Yeah.
I still love looking back at videos from our kids, and I go, I remember this video that one of my kids did, and we did this, and I find the video and I go, oh, it's not quite the way I remember it. No,
I didn't do that at all.
So anyway,
Someone's tampered with this video.
that's right. Obviously, AI's been at the job here. So it is fascinating, though, getting that stage where we don't have to rely on memory so much. We don't understand memory that well. We don't understand how our brain remembers things, and it gets a bit murky on there, but we're great at telling stories. So let's get the real data added into our storytelling capabilities, and you get someone that's a smart aleck know-it-all.
It's one little less bit of thinking that we'll have to do. Are we training humans to not have to think?
So are we getting to the point where we can use our brains for other things, or just become lazy?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we can use our brains to be really creative and solve big problems of the world, not relying on memory so much. And it's actually interesting. I have this debate. I love this debate. When I've been setting up, say, Rotary debates, just as fun debates, this is one of the debates I'll sometimes use. When you talk about someone being intelligent, someone says, gee, Billy, he's so intelligent. Does it just mean he's got a good memory? Is that what intelligence is? Being able to solve problems, being able to think creatively. Do people respect that from an intelligence point of view? Or is it really, he did well on that exam because he remembered those chemical formulas that are really hard and complicated to remember? So,
yeah, look, I've had students come to me who are all excited about chemistry because they can recite the periodic table.
Yep.
So there's no point in doing that because we give you one in an exam.
That's right.
Why'd you bother with that?
Yeah, and so this is the thing, isn't it? We have so much information that we can use. How do you use that? And so remembering stuff now, and I actually think even more so now, I actually find it a bit drab at dinner party sitting around talking about things, and people talk, now, what was the story with this? And someone pulls out their phone. I go, no, don't pull out your phone. Let's do it like the olden days. well, come up with the details is what I was thinking, James.
No, I love it.
But what is intelligence? That's a really interesting debate.
Yeah,
what is intelligence? Is it just remembering stuff, or is it being able to
the
apply
application of remembering?
So if we take away all the memory part, then maybe our application side becomes much better. So our brain is used for that rather than just remembering stuff.
Perhaps. I guess it's going to be a wait and see. Some big news stemming from the Tesla camp recently. It's not real good, though. Initially, a little overexcited and overconfident about their Autopilot feature. Well, things went horribly pear-shaped after a fatal accident about 6 years ago. Matt, the court case was a couple of weeks ago now. What was the outcome?
Well, I actually thought that Tesla would have battled this to the end. They wouldn't have wanted anyone, any court, anywhere to say, actually, you were liable because you kind of called it self-driving. So maybe people think it was self-driving. What the heck? Because it kind of seems to intimate that, doesn't it? So in this case, they did go along for a little while, had their court battle, and then settled out of court. Now, again, the only reason they would have settled out of court is because they thought, we're not going to win this one, and if we have a judgment against us, then that's not real good for all those other accidents that might have occurred, so let's go and settle out of court. So this is back in 2018, you said correctly there, 6 years ago. There was an Apple software engineer, we'll call him Walter, and he was driving along with Tesla's Autopilot on, had a crash, and looked very unfortunate. He died, and that's terrible when anyone dies in any circumstances. But the family said it was Tesla's Autopilot fault. Tesla said that he wasn't paying attention, and the family argued, well, he shouldn't have needed to because it was Autopilot. You say that. But, of course, they do talk about the fact that you should be paying attention, you should have your hands on the steering wheel, you shouldn't be playing games. There's accusations about this guy playing games, all sorts of things. The bottom line with all of this is that it's not ready yet. And if you're going to use Autopilot, and I certainly use it on my Tesla, if you're going to use Autopilot, you still need to follow the instructions. You need to read what it says, pay attention. It's a good driving aid, but it's not able to take over yet. But it's still a long way from taking over, I think, at this stage. So it's interesting. I think that lots of car companies would love to nail this. There are lots of companies out there working on self-driving, fully autonomous driving. You've got taxis out there. We've talked about them in limited areas. Tesla, of course, have got their robo-taxi that they're starting to use. They're launching this in August this year. So, I don't know. It shows how clever we are to be able to drive a car and mostly drive a car safely from point A to point B. Sometimes people die. That's obviously bad, but we mostly get it right.
Well, this is also 6 years ago, and a lot has happened in technology in that 6 years too.
Yeah, and we seem obsessed with this, don't we? We seem obsessed with this idea that we want cars to drive themselves. When people talk about autopilots, robo-taxis, we get excited. Yes, that's fantastic. That'll solve a big problem. And it will, because people do die. Unfortunately, people lose attention, they fall asleep, they lose control, they drive too fast. Humans make mistakes, but we get it right a lot of the time. I'm thinking sometimes I'm driving on the highway, there's half a metre between my car doing 100 k's an hour and a car coming at me doing 100 k's an hour. And most of the time, I haven't had a head-on collision, so most of the time I'm getting it pretty right and the person on the other side is getting it pretty right as well. Autonomous driving, it's still some way away. But in this case, it's fascinating to see that Tesla said, we're obviously in a bit of trouble here, we'll go and pay out of court. No one knows how much it was, of course, but it was obviously enough to keep the family safe. No matter what happens, though, it still didn't bring back Walter, unfortunately.
Unperturbed by recent murmurings to be more heavily regulated, the think tank behind TikTok, I was trying to get my tongue around this, the think tank behind TikTok are looking to expand their video platform into photo sharing as well. Well, that looks like a major challenge to Instagram, Matt. They're throwing down the gauntlet.
Social media platforms, the competition is intensifying, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And this is a good thing, typically you think, for all of us, but it's complicated. Which one do you use, James? There are so many to use, and each one seems to have their slightly different flavour, slightly different focus, but it's a complicated world out there, and I do often joke about it in terms of you used to contact someone via, say, snail mail or a phone call.
Yeah.
And then email came along, so we used that. And then all of these, or faxes came along, I suppose, we use that. But then now, I think in business, you've probably got 10 ways to contact someone. By the time you go through all the different normal processes and then all the different social media platforms that you can contact someone and find out information about something or someone. And I know in my circumstances, I actually use an app that distributes to other social media apps because it takes too long to go and post to individual social media apps. It means you're not getting the content exactly right for each individual social media app, which sometimes they have a different focus, but it just takes so much time to post all the different individual ones with different information.
Exactly.
So it's
so we had to have one platform that does a lot of different things, and TikTok has just mainly been videos.
That's right.
So not everyone's going to be doing a video to make their contacts.
No, and so TikTok has been known for short videos, so they've obviously said, well, it's not enough to control the world of short videos, which I think they've done a pretty good job at. They want to now take on Instagram, and Instagram is more known for its photos. That seems to be the focus. You can put videos on Instagram, but they seem to be more focused on photos. So TikTok said, well, we seem to own this short videos part, so let's go and see if we can own the photo part. So
well, the other thing that gets me is that TikTok, there's been a fair bit of pushback against TikTok just recently by governing bodies and whatnot, for them to say, well, okay, but we're now going to expand a little bit.
Well, I don't think they care too much about some government departments saying we don't like TikTok, we don't trust TikTok. It's owned by a Chinese company, which does any company in China really own something? Is it always the government?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting myself into trouble saying that.
Okay.
But ByteDance, BYTE, ByteDance is the parent company of TikTok. But again, they're a Chinese company, so that's where some government departments, particularly US government departments, aren't that comfortable. In fact, I think they ban all their employees from using TikTok for anything official. So you're right, there's that part of it. But again, TikTok says, look at the users we've got. We don't really care if some government departments aren't using this. But how can we expand? How can we take over more of the market? Because they're all in competition. They're all trying to take over more of the market. It's not good enough for any of them to say, we've got our market segment. We're okay. Thanks very much. And I suppose that's the nature of business, isn't it? Every business says, we're ruling that market segment, or we're going well in that market segment. What else can we do? And that's why we see these huge multinational companies grow. But TikTok notes, keep an eye out for it. There'll be a new domain, photo.tiktok.com, photo.tiktok.com, linked to TikTok. So basically, the whole idea here is that you'll see a focus from TikTok sometime in the very near future on photos being part of it, not just their short videos. So again, squarely aimed at Instagram to try and knock out Instagram.
Yeah.
So, and look, some people might prefer static images over videos. Personally, I don't watch many videos. I don't have time to watch videos. If I'm trying to catch up on some information, it is more photos than text. I can quickly read a bit of text much quicker than I can watch a video. A video sure gives you more information, but who's got time? If I see a video come up 10 minutes, I haven't got time for that. I want to look at a photo or watch something I could read very quickly.
But these videos, as we said already, they're only short little minute videos and whatnot. So,
that's right. The TikTok ones.
But it'll be
right.
I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens as a result of this. How the dynamic changes. Will they steal users of Instagram because of this? I don't know.
And will Instagram fight back and say, we'll really try and take on the short video market now, tit for tat, so they might go back and forth there. But it's such a complicated world with so many different social media apps. And for some people, they've got their favourites and that's it. They don't know what's going on others. They wouldn't even think about using others. But for some, that's what it'll be. So keep an eye on TikTok and their notes that'll come out very shortly.
There are so many facets to modern technology that have made young people so much more sophisticated than what they were 20 years ago. But sadly, the jungle of adolescence has become so much more perilous these days as a result. And as a bunch of teens and their parents and teachers have found out in the States. A major incident involving deepfakes has unfolded, and there are some fairly sordid details in this story, Matt.
We have talked a little bit about this before. It has happened before, but it was important enough, I thought, that we should talk about it again. There's been some new incidents that occurred in March 2024. Yeah. And again, it's this thing where we've got this wonderful technology that can be used for good or can be used for evil. In this case, there were some teenage girls at one particular high school in the US, and their classmates were creating deepfake explicit images. So it's not that hard to get a photo of a classmate, take it out of a yearbook, take a photo as you walk around the playground. Lots of times there'll be photos, sporting photos, whatever.
Access photos on social media and whatnot. You just need the head.
Very easy. And take the head and then feed it into various AI tools. And I found out a new bit of information when I was doing the research for this one. There are apps out there called notification apps. And notification apps sounds like exactly what they do. They take a picture of someone and they notify them. So I can't think of a good reason that
this is right, yeah. So someone made this site and thought, people need this.
That's right. For what reason? I can only see bad. I can't see good. So
I know there's a lot of work done here in Australia and in New South Wales schools where it's all about educating the young people and saying, giving them reasons and explaining to them what can be done.
Yep.
We're not hiding anything, because if you try to hide stuff, it'll be found anyway.
Yeah.
So, just saying, you can run yourself into big trouble. So we just got to be a bit more careful about how we use
that's right. And so
technology.
You're getting some of these boys, and so we're talking about people in year 10, so kids discovering themselves, discovering life, and probably pretty fragile, and seeing photos of themselves notified.
Yeah.
Obviously not great. The FBI has issued some pretty severe warnings about the illegality of creating images like this, the illegality of distributing images like this. So it's not like it's a bit of giggle and fun and then someone gets caught and they go, sorry. There's some pretty severe penalties.
Yeah, and whether or not the perpetrators understand just the damage that they're doing with this.
I don't know if they think it's a bit of fun and it's a bit of a joke on a classmate.
Well, that's what these education sessions are about.
Yeah.
Is trying to push that understanding.
Yep. So some of the schools have gotten to the point where anything they find, they're just immediately expelling people. So there's been some kids expelled out of some of these US schools.
Yeah.
Some other schools are saying we need stronger AI policies in our schools because we don't have that automatic expulsion process. And I suppose part of this is really just about that education. We've talked about it before as well. It's happening to teachers. So a teacher at the front of the class, pretty easy to snap a photo of a teacher sitting at the front of the class, then distributing deepfakes of the teacher nude. And again, they'll obviously be focusing on female teachers rather than male teachers. And then, but it does go further where they can then put those teachers into not just a static nudification, but actually put them into a porn scene, a video porn scene. So again, imagine a parent seeing a video of one of their teachers, of their primary school children maybe, high school children possibly, in a porn video going, well, I don't want my child going to that school, but hold on, Mr. or Mrs. Parent, it's just a fake, but how do I know that's a fake there? So there's some education needed.
It's just so terrible. It's hard to get your head around it.
Yeah. So anyway, it's happening. People will be aware of it. People, if they've got knowledge, they've got more chance of combating it. So it is happening out there. And notification apps, someone tell me a good reason for a notification app to exist.
I believe there's an age-old proverb that goes something like, "Hell hath no fury like an arcade gamer scorned." Indeed, when a high scorer's honour is at stake, and when the game in question is a Nintendo classic from the 80s, well, you'd better believe it'll make world headlines. It's on like Donkey Kong, folks. Matt, are you ready to rumble?
I don't know that proverb, actually.
It was something like that.
Very similar. So it's fascinating. So much happening around Donkey Kong and other games as well, but there is so much debate around this particular one. Billy Mitchell is a professional gamer. He's been named as the Game of the Century. I don't know whether he called himself that.
It sounds like the sort of name you give yourself.
He has got videos that it pops up and says Billy Mitchell, Game of the Century.
Right.
He's claimed in a couple of different videos about the fact that he's got the highest score. Now, it's been surpassed since, but had the highest score in Donkey Kong and a few different games that he's played there. There was a
well done, Billy.
A video of him. Again, you've really put your life to good use here. There was a couple of videos there where he had high score and then beat his high score. We're talking about over 1 million points here. I think the latest high score he had was 1.062,800 points. I don't remember ever getting near a couple hundred. Well, I don't remember getting near the 10,000 in Donkey Kong back when we were playing it back in the early 80s.
It used to clock over every time you hit 999. So once you got to 1,000, I remember it used to clock and then it'd go back to the start.
I can't remember what it clocked over at. But so anyway, Billy Mitchell said he had a high score and had videos to show that, or supposedly videos to show that, of the play. But the big argument here, James, is was he doing it on genuine arcade hardware? Easy to do it if you do an emulator or a simulator. Easy to do it. It gets down to this level. If instead of using a 4-way joystick on the arcade game, you use an 8-way joystick, because you can then go at angles in Donkey Kong rather than just straight up and down or left and right. This is the sort of complexity we're talking about in the debate around this. Billy Mitchell's actually suing a Brisbane-based YouTuber by the name of Carl Jobst, because Carl Jobst has been exposing some of these things that Billy Mitchell has been saying in terms of cheating there. Yeah. So you've got a $500,000 lawsuit over the highest scorer in Donkey Kong. Is the world gone crazy?
So what, he's got up to 10,000 or whatever. How many hours has that taken him?
Yeah, I don't know how
to play that one game that he got the high score.
Yeah,
like that's some severe RSI happening there. But the other thing is you had to practice to get to that point too.
Correct. So there are a few things there. We go back probably 20 years ago.
So much to unpack.
I don't know when he did the first record, when he claimed the first record, but there was a documentary that was released in 2007 called King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. I'd recommend you watch it if you're really into Donkey Kong. But anyway, he had a big rivalry. Billy Mitchell had a big rivalry in that particular one. And that's one of the first times he claimed a record. And then later on, 2018, he claimed another record. But Twin Galaxies, which is a website that's dedicated to putting high scores of different games up, they had him at the top of the list for some time, then they removed him because they said, we don't think your record's legitimate. So he was suing Twin Galaxies. Now he's suing Carl Jobst. It sounds like lots of fun for lawyers, but it's just Donkey Kong.
I guess if you've dedicated years of your life to a particular cause and then someone doesn't believe that you've achieved your goal, then that's going to be shattering. But maybe you just need to find a new goal, really.
Maybe. And maybe from the perspective of a gamer, there's money to be made. If you have the highest record, you might get invited to different conferences or get to speak at different things. So maybe it's worthwhile cheating to claim that. So
that's a stretch.
There are some good conferences out there that
are okay.
You don't think there's big money to be made? Have a speaking circuit on being the highest scorer in a game?
Given that some of these morning TV shows that will interview someone who did something for an instant, once and it got filmed on YouTube or whatever, then they'll go and interview them and there's nothing to talk about other than, hey, I saw you do something really clever for an instant.
So maybe you're saying to me there's not a living to be made here. I can tell my kids to stop practicing.
Well, if there is, we're all in the wrong game, quite clearly.
Yeah, that's right. But look, I suppose the thing I'm fascinated by this is that it's Donkey Kong. It's a simple game. We all played it when we were kids for 10 minutes here and there at an arcade.
Yep.
But to think it now gets into $500,000 lawsuits about who had the highest score. I mean, I'm sure people at the fish and chip shop I used to play Donkey Kong at said, "Oh, did you hear? Jimmy got 5,000." Oh, no, I've got better than that. That's about the extent of the arguments.
Can you imagine having to be the judge to preside over this and just stare at these people going, well, there are just so many other ways that we could all be spending our time
That's
right
right.
now.
I've spent years studying law. I want to make sure the right things happen, and here I am presiding over a case where someone's arguing about the highest score.
Reckons that they won't believe that he's the top scorer.
Yeah, that's right. The judge should just say, let's prove it. In the courtroom, we'll bring in an arcade game, and away you go.
We're going to watch him for the next 8 hours.
That's right. It does seem crazy.
Well, as we hurdle the last barrel and scoot up the ladder to the top level, looks to me like we've clocked this baby once again, Matt. Chalk up another one to you, me, and a crazy little Italian plumber. Well done on another cracking tech talk, Matt.
I was only dressed up as Mario a week ago doing a dancing tune to Mario, but I was a more modern version of Mario. I had more pixels.
Well, my biggest takeaways from this week were that scammers don't always win. That's A. B, that I shouldn't need AI to tell me when enough is enough. And C, I remain convinced that this Gen Xer still has no need for TikTok yet, photo capability or not. Thanks for tuning in to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. This podcast is recommended with a dollop of tomato sauce and chips on the side. Thank you very much. I'm James Eddy, and as always, it's a pleasure to bring you each episode week upon week, and we hope to do so for some time to come. But it'll be so much better if you just invite one more friend along for the ride next week. Hope to catch you all, including the new guy. Bye for now.